What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. In today's episode, we're going to do a movie review of Free Solo, talk about how I have a house full of sick children, and what else? Updates, maybe? Oh, that's right. Garage studio podcast / workstation updates on the construction. So Free Solo. My wife and I, we caught this film on Hulu the other night, and it is just a tremendous documentary. I thought it was really good, well deserving of the award that it received at the Academy. I'd like to get into some spoilers sooner rather than later. Excuse me. So for those of you who haven't seen the documentary, if you're going to see the documentary or you don't want the story to be ruined for you, I would say just go ahead and stop listening now, or you can go ahead and fast forward to the later in the episode to hear the other talking points. But consider yourself warned. Spoilers starting now. So the movie follows, it's going to be a terrible I'm already. The movie follows this climber, and yes, I don't remember his name, even though I saw the movie yesterday. But we're following this climber as he's a free soloist, which means he climbs without a rope. Not all the time, but he does. He has been known to partake in some ropeless climbs from time to time, and so they are following him on his training / journey to summit El Capitan in Yosemite without a rope. It is, for anybody who's seen images, if you own an Apple computer, I'm pretty sure you've seen the wallpaper of El Cap at some point, or if you've taken a vacation there, it is just an unreal looking just piece of Mother Nature. It is amazing. I've been to Yosemite years back, and still seeing it on film doesn't even do it justice. So it was an amazing thing to witness somebody putting themselves out there to accomplish a task, to accomplish a goal of climbing this mountain without any ropes, any safety, any mistake, and it'll cost his life. A mistake just results in death. So the thought process that goes into the training, the amount of training, even the time that he was going to set out on the climb, because he knew that at certain points he didn't want maybe the sun to be hitting him at certain time during the climb. So even when he started, that was important. The weather was important. Everything was important. So I thought that the directorial direction that they went with regards to his girlfriend, because he talks about how it's very hard for him to hold down relationships because his climbing comes first and foremost. That's his love right there. And relationships just come second. So because of that, he had gone through a few. And the woman that he is dating during the documentary, it seemed as if they edited her in a very problematic way that I don't know if it's just her in general, like this is the type of person that she is, because documentaries, you don't have enough time to really piece together everybody's story. They sort of just coincide with the main focus. So you can end up fitting a certain narrative. And I felt that the narrative she was placed into, or maybe she is this way. I'm not passing any judgment on her, but it was edited in a way that I felt she was problematic. She, through the edits of the documentary, they posted a lot of just words of doubt that she would place. She would speak these words of doubt and sort of get in. It made it seem as if she was trying to get into his head in a very negative way. And I felt that was very dangerous, given what he was about to embark on. It seemed as if he was a train headed on his destination and there was going to be no stopping it. And so what do you do at that point? And then there was another portion of the documentary where I don't think he says it. They kind of just know it in their relationship with each other, but she needs to leave. Like, she can't be there anymore. He needs to clear his headspace and focus on what he's about to do. And it shows her, she's got camera person with her and breaking down, crying. Is this going to be our last hug? Is this really going to be goodbye? Am I going to see you in a couple days, or will this be your last climb? Because they even touched on other free soloists who had passed away, and a free soloist that I think he had known who passed away just a year prior or during the filming of this documentary. So even that hits very close to his circle of friends and of climbers. So with that, just having that emotional weight, it felt conflicted. I felt conflicted watching that scene, thinking to myself, should she turn back? Should she stop him? I'm like talking with my wife, and my wife is like, no. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, well, how much do you owe a person? I mean, do you owe them the justification to put things aside when you're married? Does that happen when you have children? Does it even happen when you're in a committed relationship? At what point is the other person able to step in and feel that they have the right to intervene or feel justified intervening? For myself, as a parent, I couldn't see putting anything before my family, anything before my children. And I guess I can understand how there is no goal greater for him than this climb. So it comes before his relationship. It comes before her and everything else. Everything points in this one direction. And the same thing for myself. Everything points to my family. Everything points to my children. Everything I do is for them. So there's no deterring me, swaying me from not wanting to do that for them. So I can understand that in a sense, but when it comes to putting your life on the line, I was curious if she had thought she should turn back, if she could have, if things had panned out differently, how she would have felt about herself if she had thought to go back. If she didn't think to go back, then if he had not successfully completed that climb, I don't think that it would have been much of an issue then, regardless for her, other than the fact that she would be sad. But yeah, I thought it was just an amazing video. And even knowing going into it, knowing that he completed this climb, watching all the rounds of interviews he was doing on Kimmel, on late night, being up there on stage as the award was being accepted, like knowing he is alive, I still felt tremendously on edge watching him on the climb. It was really a sight. And so he's the first person in the world to ever do it, free solo it. It's been climbed by, I'm sure, a number of people since, but or prior, but he's the first to do it without a rope. So that says something. And I was kind of thinking about it too, like in a way, just because, he was definitely wearing a lot of North Face. I don't know if he's sponsored, like a sponsored athlete by North Face, but it almost made me wonder like what the optics are for a company to sponsor an athlete who does free solo. Like how safe is that for a brand to do something like that, to sponsor somebody who may be romanticizing the idea of you're not an elite level climber unless you do this without a rope, or unless you do this and put your life at risk. I mean, athletes do it in other sports, but to me, it just seems like when it comes to climbing, it's one of those sports that I don't really know if ropes hold you back. So I can't really speak on it, but I was curious about it to see the North Face logo out there. And he may very well not be sponsored by them. He might just purchase those clothes himself, because chances are if you're a hiker or you're an avid outdoorsman, you own a piece of North Face gear anyways. And then just, I think that the folks who decided to do the documentary hit the nail right on the head and described it, or explained themselves very well, in the sense that they wanted to tell the story, but they didn't want to glorify it. They wanted to tell it on tell his story without having outside influence. So they didn't want to ask him, when are you climbing? Are you going to do it today? Are you going to do it today? Getting in his head and creating a sense of urgency. It seemed like he kind of had to just go with the flow, like maybe a surfer waiting for the right wave. Like you just kind of feel it in the air. So that was one thing that I liked. And they said that they also decided not to, or that when they were debating whether or not they should do the documentary about this, they asked, what was the end goal? Was he a risk taker, a daredevil? Because if that were the case, they said that they wouldn't have done this documentary. So the fact that he was truly passionate about what it is he was doing, about the sport, that was the reason why they wanted to tell the story, and why the story, I think, did so well. Because anybody who's a risk taker or a daredevil, like, maybe you would have seen it. Maybe it would have come across through the lens that they're just in it for the fame, or for something other than maybe the purity of the sport or the challenge. So yeah, that's my take. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. We caught it on Hulu, so though we paid Hulu's monthly subscription, we didn't have to go out and try to find it in a theater, if it's even playing in a theater, and we didn't have to rent it or anything like that. So it was definitely, for an at-home movie that's already readily available through streaming services, I give it an 8 out of 10. Would I have paid to see this in the theater? No. Documentaries, there's only a handful that I have seen at home that I feel I would have paid to see it in a theater, but this is not one of them. Though the shots were very grand, and I mean, Yosemite is just a beautiful landscape to begin with, I felt like I got the effect just through the home setup. So having a house, like, I guess moving on, just jumping right into this, no segue, but having a house full of sick kids is not easy. The little one's sick. My son is sick. My wife is sick. I'm coming off of being sick, and it's not fun. My son is feeling a little bit warm today. There's no fever. My daughter, she was sort of tossing and crying and probably just full of all kinds of discomfort, coughing and watery eyes and runny nose. And, you're sort of at the beck and call at that age. For her, it's, what is it that you need? Do you need to be held? Do you want to be put down? Do you want to sit in your high chair and have some some oatmeal cereal? Do you want to have a bottle? You sort of running through the list. And when none of these things are really hitting and she's just uncomfortable and crying, it makes it for a difficult evening. Not one that's overwhelming, just challenging. And my son, when he is sick, he gets pretty quiet and he gets pretty mellow. He's a really, as I've mentioned before, really rowdy, rambunctious kid, just full of energy. So you can tell something's different when he's feeling sick. He just wants to sit and just is really mellow. So hopefully he's able to kick this a little bit sooner rather than later. I was talking with him about how, sleep will definitely help you to feel better sooner. So I got him to bed earlier tonight, and tomorrow we'll see how the weekend goes. He's not a big fan of orange juice, so I don't really know. Like, that's sort of my go-to whenever I'm feeling sick. I tend to drink some orange juice, have a couple soups, and that's for myself, just what the doctor ordered. So with my son, I'm going to have to figure out a way to approach that. He's not a big fan of medicine. I don't think he needs medicine. At this point, he doesn't. He's coughing, but it's not like a really bad cough. So, wife texting me right now. And so because of that, I don't really think that he's in need of any medications right now. But we are monitoring his temperature. For those of you who are curious how often you should monitor your little one's temperature. Again, not telling you how to parent, but we, as in my wife and I, we check every hour, sometimes every 30 minutes. We got one of those little electric thermometers that you just pass across their forehead, and it's like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So that makes it pretty easy to just check their temperature on a regular basis. And my son is more active and wanting to do things himself. So sometimes he checks his temperature on his own. And we just stay up on that. And when it comes to PJs, I mean, though it's been cold and at night, I put him in semi-light layers this evening because he was feeling warm. No fever, but still he felt warm. So I decided to not put him in some really robust pajamas. And as for our daughter, I mean, she can't really tell us what it is she's feeling. She can't tell us what it is she needs. So again, we just have to run through that list. Either she wants to be held, she wants to be put down, she wants to be fed, she wants a bottle. It's usually one of those things. Or sometimes she just wants one of us in particular. She either wants me or she wants her mother. So if her mother's not here, like just earlier this evening, she is in class. She may have wanted mom, and that was just it. So, house full of sick kids. Go figure. It's not easy, but I think because we're on our second time around, we're on baby number 2, we're definitely a little bit more prepared when it comes to caring for the needs of our children at this point in the game. And on that, another non-segued transition, but the podcasting / workstation studio that I have slated for building in the garage should be commencing sometime this weekend. I've cleared the wall. In a previous video / podcast, I was actually in the garage, in the space, and you can see in the background it was very, very messy. And I've since cleared that entire wall. I'll be picking up some insulation and possibly some drywall, either myself or I'll have it delivered or a friend. Still haven't worked out the fine details on that one yet, but I'll be picking up some insulation and placing that up. The one question I have is if I want to add an additional outlet for power, just because I'm going to have lighting in my computer set up in a more permanent fixture, as well as with the camera and the microphones. They'll be set up so they'll be on the ready at all times. So I'm still debating whether or not I want to add an electrical outlet. The one maybe semi-technical task will be the sprinkler timer box. That is recessed within the 2x4s. So because of that, I have to rewire it. And after my time working on some of these CNC machines and getting into the more electrical work, I feel more confident with my ability to detach the wires and reroute them and mount the box in a more, I guess, central friendly / location. So again, that should be starting hopefully this weekend. If not, the space is cleared, so it'll be ready to go as soon as my wife has started her spring break. But it's kind of the update on the garage and what I've got going on there. House full of sick kids. Caught a really great movie. Saw the new Avengers trailer, but I'm going to save that talk for a later podcast and just sort of end it here. I want to thank you guys if you made it this far in the episode for your continued support. You guys can find me on my website, www.ramoncampamore.com. You can send comments, suggestions, topic suggestions even, and slide in the DMs on the Instagram, Ramon_Campamore. And as always, till next time, see ya.